Ja, hallo Leute, herzlich willkommen zu German Good Mike van Dyke Cruiser Channel. Willkommen, freut mich über jeden, der reinkommt. So, very nice. Also es geht heute um Flat the Kurve. Ist Dokumentation aus Amerika. Ich habe es selber noch nicht gesehen, deswegen schaue ich es mir gerne an. Ist Teil 2 bereits. Teil 1 ist in meiner Liste. Okay, also dann machen wir mal weiter mit Flatten the Curve Dokumentare. Bis jetzt finde ich sie gut.
Transmissions, there must be a transmitter and a receiver. There can be a reflector or a transmitter unit along the way. However, in the end, there's got to be at least transmitter and a receiver. And in the case of radar,
ja, Radar transmits auf der flachen Erde nicht. Also das mit noch Bouncen auf der Ionosphäre ist kompletter Blödsinn. Also ja, es ist zum Beispiel auch bei den U-Booten wäre es unmöglich, also dass sie zusammen kommunizieren würden und so viel sehen würden, wenn es Kurven geben würde, also wenn es ein Globus wäre. Ich finde sowieso leider, Leute, wirklich, der Globe ist wirklich, aber wenn man die Leute bittet, hereinzukommen, es kommt keiner mehr, ja, weil es sind ihnen wirklich die Argumente komplett ausgegangen. Die Gottesspinnereien funktionieren nicht mehr. Also, aufpassen mit dem Final Experiment, bitte. Mit dem Wildaffe. Ich halte das für sehr gefährlich, weil ich finde es A komisch, wieso er runter darf. B finde ich es eigentlich einfach eigen, dass ein Pastor, der nichts mit Flach Erde zu tun hat, sich um sowas kümmert. Also aufpassen bei dem. Aber für mich ändert sich eh nichts, weil wenn dort 24 Stunden Sonne ist, gibt es so viele Clues und Hinweise, dass die Erde immerhin stationär, still, ruhig und sich nicht bewegt. Und wir im Zentrum sind. Also Zentrum, ich sage mal, zumindest auf dieser Fläche, das ist das Zentrum, nicht das würde sich immer weiter ausbreitet. Ich glaube nicht an Weltallweltsinn. Hab's früher, aber habe oft Bullshit. Warum soll es das geben? Das ist eine schöne Geschichte, aber nicht. So, aber ist jeden seine Sache. Aber wenn er bei mir da ist, kann er gerne mitreden. Der Link ist drauf. Ich diskutiere sehr gerne mit jedem, wo ich so, ob er Glauber ist, heliozentrisches Weltbild, wie heißt's, der an gar nichts glaubt, halt, ja, fällt mir gerade nicht heilig auf der Zunge, wurscht. Also es kann ja jeder reinkommen. Ich freue mich über jeden und jeder wird auch respektvoll behandelt, bitte. Ja. Gut, habt Spaß.
It bounces off a reflector and then it comes back to the receiving station. or it can go to other stations if they're set up in the network properly. Long story short, radar emits a signal, it bounces off something, and then it returns to a receiving unit, and the receiving unit maps that reflection accordingly. If there is no reflector, then there's no return signal, and then the object does not show up on the radar. For example, it's off the screen. Notice there's no curving around anything. It goes out in a straight line. Radio signals always travel in a straight line. So the transmitter sends the signal out to the target, bounces off, and it comes back in a straight line. Radar cannot travel over the curve, and hence radar is dependent on line of sight, direct beam from the transmission to the target. It reflects and it comes straight back. There is no curving around anything, thus is radar.
Also, radar works in straight lines. The radar is incapable of curving around a curve, picking up and bouncing back the reflection of what it's picking up. So if you can imagine a ship on the other side of the curve, we'll say 30 miles, 40 miles out, it sends out the radar beam. The radar beam is supposedly curving around this ball, bouncing back, and then bouncing the reflection, curving back around to be picked up by the radar. That's not happening. It's flying out straight, and when it picks up something, it hits it back. It's not going around any curve. That's plain and simple. That can be looked up on your YouTube and see how radar waves work. They don't go around the curve. Every diagram shown will show you straight lines. They don't show you curved lines.
Also ich hoffe, unser Channel wird ein bisschen wachsen. Der Mike van Dijk hat heute eben keine Zeit mehr. Ist auch schon 22 Uhr jetzt. Ich mache eben nur noch die Dokumentarräder fertig. Also Flatten the Curve. Ich habe sie eben auch noch nicht gesehen. Geht noch eine gute Stunde. Gut, das haben wir vor.
As we zoom out to look at the larger scope of things, once we verify that, we're able to zoom out over a large distance. Now, over this screen, at the time, I was like 18 or 19 years old, all right, when I was doing this job. I wasn't thinking about flat Earth and any of this other shit. I was still indoctrinated and under the assumption that the Earth is a spinning ball. I never thought about flat Earth or anything like that. But I always thought it was weird that as I'm looking at this massive radar screen, I always used to think, how come we're looking at this and I can see, like, we're off of the coast of Argentina, for instance, right? Like, how is it that I can see this far out and it's not like over the horizon or curve because it's so far? Like I said, we use a lot of these other link signals, and they're called links. They go by different names. I can't say the code names. Some of them I forgot. Some of them are, again, this is classified information. I can't give any specifics on these. But some of the links that we use, not only do we speak to the actual ships and track them, but we speak to aircraft, 10,000, 20,000, 30 and higher, 30,000 feet and higher is what I'm saying. It's not just a matter that they're 30,000 feet directly. It's not like they're directly above the ship. This is what's interesting, is this aircraft could be
30.000 feet. Warte, ich mal schauen, was das in Meter sind. 30.000 Feet sind 91.044 Kilometer. Sind die hoch? Wahnsinn.
Be 50, 60 miles away and 30,000 feet in the air. So you understand, like, the angle that you have to take to be able to track this aircraft from a ship that's moving on the water. Think about that for a second.
Das hier ist die Yacht von Mark Zuckerberg, dem Gründer von Facebook. Das hier ist die Yacht von Jeff Bezos, dem Gründer von Amazon. Das hier ist
I served on board of a United States 688I fast attack nuclear submarine. And I can personally attest that we never constantly angled down during our submarine deployments. One of our longest transits went from the Gulf of Oman around the southern tip.
Für so Submarine-Mannschaften, also wie was die mitmachen müssen mit so einem Metallding da unten. Und ich sag, ich würde eher in so einen Submarine zum Mond fliegen, und ich mich sicherer fühlen wie das Gerät, was wir uns vorgestellt haben. Warten Sie mal, ich sage Ihnen mal. Das Moon Landing 500. Es ist einfach unglaublich, dass es überhaupt so weit gebracht haben. So, da haben wir was Wunderschönes. Da kriegen wir Tausende von Bildern. Yes, the Apollo moon landing really happens. Yes. Gott sei Dank, da sehen wir unsere Momente. So. Bitteschön. Also das Mondbuggy da kostet circa so viel wie eine Yacht heutzutage mit Helikopterlandeplatz, mit den coolen Regenschirm da oben, den kriege ich um 3 Euro. Das ist eben da das Apollo-Mondkapselgerät, nicht, mit dem sie gelandet sind, wo unterhalb überhaupt kein Krater ist, nicht, wo sie mit einer Raketendüsenantrieb quasi gelandet sind, ist drunter gar nichts. Ja, er spricht einfach sehr viel dagegen und schaut euch einmal das Gerät einfach an. Ich würde damit nicht einmal ins Wasser gehen. Nicht? Und dann ins Golf spielen oder was und fahren mit Mondbuggies rum. Statt dass eine Kamera aufbauen, die zum Beispiel unseren Planeten zeigt. Nur ein Beispiel. Aber, na bitte. Ich bin nicht jetzt da, um das anzugehen. Schauen wir Flatten der Kurve weiter.
Of Africa and back to Connecticut.
Aber über Moonhoax mache ich nochmal bestimmt was. Also, da gibt es so viele Hopperlas, die dort passiert sind. Und die muss ich einmal aufzeigen.
We were underwater for almost 3 months straight. My job on board as a radioman meant that I spent a lot of time both in the radio room and in the control room. The control room is where they navigate and drive the submarine. I never once, in my 5 years active duty, heard the officer of the deck or the diving officer give the order to consistently change the angle of the submarine to compensate for the curvature of the Earth. The primary task of the diving officer and the helms and plainsman is to maintain the submarine as level as possible while in transit. If the Earth had any measurable curvature, I am certain we would not have been able to make this incredibly long transit without accounting for it.
And then the big one is given after that. Well, GPS auto corrects for it. And that sent me down yet another path. GPS auto corrects for it. If it's a satellite-based system, how is it correcting for spin if it's also spinning over the same body? And why are there large gaps in GPS coverage over large oceanic bodies? Do they just turn them off? It's just not worthwhile? There have been enough aviation accidents at sea, very far from shore, that would say otherwise. And if you gave the American taxpayers, the ones funding these satellites that are supposed to track aircraft, the information that, well, we're just shutting.
Ja, Jungs und Mädels, möchte ich nur was sagen. Heute ist, und du machst das so, heute ist die Wiki am Start, der ist bei uns um 22:30 Uhr, glaube ich, oder um 23:30 Uhr, ich glaube 22:30 Uhr, macht über Mental Health was. Ich hau den Link rein, ja, in die Kommentare. Gebt ihr ein Like oder schaut es euch an, sie macht wirklich gute Videos. Okay, ich muss schauen, dass ich ein bisschen weiterkomme. Weil das nur ziemlich Zeit lang geht.
Them off because it's not worthwhile. Those 3 or 4 jets full of hundreds of passengers just have to use other navigation methods such as dead reckoning, which is basically using a stopwatch and guessing to the next checkpoint, essentially. If you were to tell them that, they would be infuriated. So that could not be the case. Coverage was a problem. Even over large and non-densely populated areas, you would lose GPS coverage, even in jets at times. So this began to unravel the thread of satellites and satellite timing, and the fact that many reels of footage show these satellites being launched by balloon rather than by rockets, how the concept of these rockets doesn't even work to make it pass the atmosphere, much less leave something in perfect geosynchronous orbit. I actually had the privilege of working a short time at a satellite manufacturing company in Northern California. Got to see the assembly and participate in the assembly of satellites, space satellites, or so they were said. There would be small bottles encased in these structures that were encased by another structure. The small bottles were the fuel cells. These fuel cells were incredibly small, smaller than a diver's tank in most cases, much smaller. And this was supposed to be all the fuel that the craft needed to run and operate, as most are not actually electric. They're becoming electric now, and sustain itself in a perfect orbit by just small bursts from its engine or its propulsion system.
Was würde mit einer Frau passieren, wenn sie 2 Wochen lang jeden Tag die Löwenzahn-Leberkur einnimmt? Nach bereits 24 Stunden würde sich ihre Energie erhöhen, da ihre Leber beginnt, effizienter zu entgiften.
But truth be told, I've been to many countries, done many things, all things aviation. I can say with absolute certainty, and I can attest, the plane does not dip nose down to follow the curvature of the Earth, ever. Matter of fact, most planes have an airfoil that are 3 degrees nose up in straight and level flight. And the reason that is simple. If the nose of the aircraft was at 0 degrees or level flying through the air, then it would porpoise, right? It would be quite violent because some of the air would go over the nose and some of the air would go under the nose. And it would cause that nose to go down, up and down, which is literally like a porpoise or a dolphin out of water. And that's exactly what would happen. So it's the wings are designed, when they are level, the nose is 3 degrees nose up.
The fact, proven from multiple points, that there is no Coriolis to the motion of the Earth. And I'm speaking because I obtained a degree as an engineer before I went to flight school. So I'm both a pilot and engineer at once. So number one, there is no rotation of the Earth, proven by the fact that a helicopter pilot can hover the aircraft indefinitely, motionless, above a single point of the Earth. If the Earth were spinning, as soon as that aircraft left the ground, the Earth would spin out from under it. Now, somebody may say that the air of the atmosphere rotates along with the Earth, which is one of the most absurd concepts imaginable. Because if that were the case, then all wind would travel with the Earth. There would be no alternating wind currents. And we know that the jet streams fly overhead, clouds move in multiple directions overhead, and a kite flying over the stationary Earth. The fact that a kite flies because of wind passing through, that proves that the Earth does not. That proves that the air does not move in unison with the Earth. Number two, airstrips do not rotate away from a landing aircraft. Anybody who's seen a pilot's view when an aircraft lands, well, the aircraft lands to a motionless turn to the angle at which the airstrip is rotating away and land at the speed of the airstrip, which is absurd, simply absurd. Airstrips do not rotate away from the air.
Das ist super blöd, ne? Das stellt sich mal vor, die Landebahn bewegt sich in irgendeiner Richtung, vielleicht, sagen wir am besten Weise geht geradeaus oder rückwärts. Nicht? Aber stellt sich mal vor, wie schwer das wäre. Nicht? Also, und deswegen für Piloten, sie dürfen es halt nicht sagen natürlich, aber es ist eigentlich den meisten bereits klar, dass die Flache stationär und eben ist. Nicht? Für mehr kann ich auch nicht sagen, was man will sagen. Aber auf jeden Fall bewegt sie sich nicht. Und mit 1029 km/h im Äquator und wir drehen uns noch um die Sonne und drehen uns dabei nur selber. Nope, it's not the case.
aircraft, and on an east to west landing strip.
Nicht, glaube ich nicht, weiß ich. Das ist nicht so. Das widerspricht dem Physik, also würde nicht gehen.
If the aircraft is landing to the west, the airstrips do not land moving towards the airplane. That's insanity. Okay, simply stated.
If the Earth was a spinning ball, it is virtually impossible for a ship to be moving at 25 to.
Got something for you, Glo?
30 knots on this curved spinning ball while tracking an aircraft that's probably going 300 miles per hour, 50 to 100 miles away. Really, I mean, these like E3 aircrafts were pretty far and 20,000 feet in the air. It's just virtually impossible. It doesn't make sense. Again, at the time, I wasn't thinking like this, but looking back on the information that I had, I'm like, yeah, there's no way. There's no way that was done on a curved Earth. Literally, the only way that could work is if we are on a flat, stationary plane. We're cruising along. The boat is cruising along in the water. Like, think about it in terms of like a large, like, you know, like those backyard swimming pools. Picture the swimming pool filled up, right? And then your ship, you put a little boat on the swimming pool, and then, you know, you put like a little fake aircraft in the air. Now, from that ship, you're able to see the aircraft. It doesn't matter where you are in that pool, you can track that aircraft. If you're on a spinning ball curve, how the hell can you track an aircraft that could be in a position that's 100 to 200 miles away from you, 30,000 feet in the air from a different angle that's around a curve? It's impossible. There's no way that you could, there's no radio frequency.
Welchen Sinn würden Leuchttürme machen, wenn das ja, nicht flach wäre, wenn man Krümmel hätte?
We'll see that could track that.
Ich glaube, es ist einfach fertig. Ich würde es einmal genau andersrum beweisen, aber ja.
Point out that I see now that I didn't see before is that you have a magnetic compass and you have a gyro on any ship. And I'm not talking about your little Crabberman show fishing boat. What are they?
Also Navigation auf dem Meer. Also eigentlich hat sich nicht viel geändert, außer im nördlichen Bereich gibt es ein bisschen GPS. Also das ist natürlich schon, aber also der noch richtig navigieren muss man auf jeden Fall nicht kennen. Nicht? Und das geht eben mit zum Beispiel mit also gibt es gewisse Maps, die eben gewisse Fixpunkte haben, also der Nordstern ist immer ein Fixpunkt, aber dann siehst du halt auch noch auf Nacht, Sonne, Mond und so, das ist alles, also somit wird navigiert nicht, und Nordstern benutzen es alle als einen Ausgangspunkt. Man braucht aber immer zwei, um ein Dreieck zu bilden, nicht? Und dann weiß man, wo man sich ungefähr befindet. Und also das ist nicht so einfach, so wenn man das navigieren, wie man sich das vorstellt.
I'm talking about a real deep sea going unlimited tonnage boat. It's going to have a gyro, and it is a big huge box that sits usually behind the bridge or in the chart room. It's a big box, and it's basically the gyro compass. Now, if you had two models, I guess wouldn't you have to have one making the corrections, because it almost never matches the magnetic almost never matches the gyro. It's very rare that we're steering the same course. And they say it's due to deviation and variation is where you know, like the metals of the ship causes it to differ. And then you have the variation of the magnetic fields over the Earth. I guess they change, you know, true north and magnetic north.
Einen Moment.
But the way I look at it is, man, they got two different machines. One is a machine and one is from God. The way to get around the Earth. God's not a dummy. He put the way to get around the Earth with the compasses. If back in the day they had motorized vessels that can get them around, they would probably have got around a lot better. But they were at the mercy of the wind. People like, oh, they didn't know their way, or, you know, they were using the stars and stuff, and they, you know. So I just believe that the two compasses, the gyro compass that's electronic, and then our regular compass, is because they are switching the ways, you know, the maps. There's two different ways to get around the Earth. You're tricking us.
Here is another flat Earth proof that I never noticed while I was on active duty, thanks to years of indoctrination.
Also die Infos der Ads sind nur relevant für dich, wenn du absolut keinen Bock mehr auf deinen klassischen 9-to-5-Stundenlohn hast. Wir bringen dich in unter 6 Monaten mit 100%iger Erfolgsgarantie auf 5-stellige Monatsumsätze als Closer oder refunden dein gesamtes Investment für die Zusammenarbeit plus entschädigen dich mit 1.000 Euro an.
Periscope observation. And the observer is looking for ships on the horizon. They will start to see masts at about 8 to 9 miles, depending on atmospheric occlusion and sea state. The hull of the ships won't be visible until about 5 miles, depending on atmospheric occlusion and sea state. At 9 miles away, the target should be 26 feet behind the curve, but this isn't what's observed. My final flat Earth point on submarines is with regard to the AN/WSN TAC-7 ring laser gyro that is used on board of U.S. Navy submarines. A typical gyroscope, like the ones used on board of an aircraft, is a device used for measuring or maintaining orientation and angular velocity. It is either a spinning wheel or disc with a counterweight in which the axis of rotation is free to assume any orientation by itself. When rotating, the orientation of this axis is unaffected by tilting or rotation of the mounting, according to the conservation of angular momentum. However, a ring laser gyro doesn't have any established weight. They use light as a point of reference. It spins up a disc that shoots out lasers, and it has a digital encoder that deciphers where the laser strikes inside of the gimbal system. No make-believe gravity required.
Let's just say we're like 30 miles away. These missiles can shoot much further than that. I can't give you the exact number, but say we're 30 miles away, okay? 30 miles is far. So from our ship, we can track on our little, we have like a missile projectile. It's like a radar, but it's a little bit different. It's specifically designed to track the missiles. You and actually input the coordinates, latitude and longitude of where you want the missile to strike. Really, really high precision accuracy. Really accurate. We hit that launch and the missile, and it will hit that target 30 miles away, even longer than that. Now, here's the thing. Again, that's not possible on a curved Earth. These missiles are huge, 50 caliber project that are carrying massive amounts of explosives in them, okay? Each one of these missiles are probably worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. So whenever you're lining up these missiles to shoot at targets that are 30 plus miles away, if the Earth is spinning. Again, now think about this. We're not sitting like on land holding a gun, all right? So picture this. We're on a ship, like actually in the middle of the water, okay? And the missile is shooting off of the bow of the ship. So if the world is a spinning ball and we're on this curved Earth with water and we're spinning 600 miles per hour through infinite space, I'm pretty sure that it would be physically like it wouldn't even make any kind of sense on a physics type level to be able to shoot a missile from a spot in the water on a spinning ball to pinpoint accurately hit another spot.
And at night, we were going on one ship, on a military ship, and this is with night vision goggles, 50 miles, and these guys were on the bow. They were not even on the bridge where you'd be 100 foot up. They were on the bow, which is barely probably 40 feet off the water's edge. So these guys, and they have the latest state of the art. This was in 2015. 2015, they had state of the art, what do they call night vision goggles. So these things are capable of seeing that far if we live on a plane. You can't deny it. It's so obvious, but not to everyone else. I guess the programming's harder than other people. So they don't want to hear it. But over the years, I've learned the model. I know the model like the back of my hand. I can show proofs. I have ammo now. So when I go out there and I tell somebody, hey, that's impossible, you know, and I'm talking to a third mate or second mate who's an officer who went to college, meaning they paid for their education. Because when you pay for your education and you're making a handsome salary on it, you can't be wrong. How could I be wrong? I'm making a salary. They're paying me. I paid for this career. Everything's working great in my life. You are obviously wrong. All the math works. So with that, you know, it's hard. But when you stump them and you start showing them stuff, it's hard for them to say. And then they start saying stuff like, oh, well, what does it matter anyways? I don't care.
And there is the 8 inches per mile squared. But you guys can't look at it three-dimensionally. It is two-dimensional. It is the amount of deviation that's required for you to come back inward. If you are walking east from north, meaning you are going around north equidistantly, and you walked in straight line east 1 mile, you're going to have to deviate 8 inches back to the left to get back on the equator, right? Look at it on the flat earth map, and clearly it makes sense. If you walk 1 mile in a straight line east, you have to deviate 8 inches after each mile to stay on the equator. The 8 inches per mile squared is a real measurement, if in fact we consider the equator to be a real place, a real location, ever, always.
In 2015, I came across YouTube's suggestions for flat earth videos. My first reaction was to laugh off. After seeing flat earth videos in one of my favorite channels, I decided to watch one. And I came across a flat earth map, which I had never seen before. It immediately sparked me to look at that flight route, Rio, Los Angeles, Sydney. And I could then understand why the Brazilian soccer team went to Los Angeles and then to Australia for the tournament. The earth is flat, no doubt about it.
Monat für Monat neue Kunden für dein Expertenbusiness zu gewinnen, brauchst du keine komplizierte Technik. Ja, und du brauchst auch keine irgendwelchen komplizierten Funnelsysteme. Du musst nicht sofort mit dem Podcast antreten oder aber direkt mit teuren Webseiten in den Markt gehen. Als Coach, Beraterin, Therapeutin oder kreative Dienstleisterin brauchst du nämlich nur eine einzige Strategie, um Monat für Monat bis zu 6-stellige Monatsumsätze zu erzielen und dir damit das Leben zu ermöglichen. Trainerinnen und Therapeuten ist, dass sie keine einfache Kundengewinnungsstrategie haben und somit auch nicht bei ihren Kunden planbar online sichtbar werden. Denn draußen gibt es ja gefühlt tausende Möglichkeiten und die meisten von ihnen versuchen es dann immer wieder mit ganz komplexer Technik oder mit irgendwelchen komplizierten Funnels oder sie verschwenden vielleicht sogar wertvolle Zeit damit, jeden Tag auf Social Media ohne Sinn und Plan zu posten oder irgendwelche Tutorials anzugucken und zu schauen, welche Strategie wohl funktioniert. Aber ganz ehrlich, so findest du keine neuen Leads und keine neuen Kunden. Ja, und am Ende stellt man dann irgendwie frustriert wieder fest, dass nur wieder Zeit draufgegangen ist, Geld und Energie verschwendet wurde, ohne dass man die eigenen Businessziele wirklich erreicht hat. Ja, und wenn du jetzt endlich wissen möchtest, wie du es mit einer ganz einfachen, sympathischen Strategie in wenigen Wochen schaffst, dich als Expertin zu positionieren, online bei deinen Kunden sichtbar zu werden und Monat für Monat planbar neue Kunden zu gewinnen, dann haben wir eine gute Nachricht für dich. Ja, wir haben nämlich ein neues Videotraining aufgenommen und in dem erklären wir dir genau das Schritt für Schritt. Und dieses Videotraining kannst du dir jetzt ganz einfach kostenlos sichern, indem du hier unten auf den Link oder auf den Button klickst. Wir haben uns dir noch gar nicht vorgestellt. Wir sind Susanne und Nicole und gemeinsam haben wir es exakt mit dieser Strategie geschafft, unser Online-Coaching-Unternehmen in nur 3 Jahren auf Multimillionen-Umsätze zu skalieren. Und das trotz Familie und Kindern. Doch das Beste kommt jetzt. Hunderte unserer Kunden nutzen ebenfalls diese Strategie und erzielen damit konstant 5- oder 6-stellige Monatsumsätze. Ja, und dazu gehören unter anderem die Monika Pott, ja, oder zum Beispiel auch Nicole Müller und noch viele, viele weitere Powerfrauen. Und wir zeigen dir in unserem kostenlosen Videotraining wirklich Schritt für Schritt, Step by Step, wie du das auch schaffen kannst, wie du es auch schaffst, diese Business-Ziele zu erreichen. Klick jetzt einfach unten auf den Link oder auf den Button und anschließend kommst du auf unsere Seite. Dort musst du dann nur noch deinen Namen und deine beste E-Mail-Adresse eingeben und schon bekommst du in nur wenigen Sekunden den Zugangslink zu unserem kostenlosen Videotraining geschickt. Wir freuen uns auf dich.
I was lightning before the thunder. Lightning and the thunder. Be the thunder.
Following weeks and days were followed by more research and disbelief. I had been a NASA fanboy my whole life, paying 2 visits to NASA's Johnson Space Center in Huntsville, Alabama, besides spending so much money in science and science fiction related documentaries, movies, merchandise, etc. What a waste of time.
I also tell mates about they lay down and we use all our charting is done on flat maps, straight lines. They never draw a curved line. Every line is straight lines everywhere we go on a flat map. And I try to point it out to them. And what they tell me is, Mr. Marcator has put all that in there for you. It's all equated in there for you. You don't have to worry about it. All the curvature calculations for it and everything's figured right into the map. So the straight lines and everything are actually bending somehow. I don't know. So these are just the proofs that I see. Along with, you can see the corpuscular rays are much betterly observed out at sea because it's nothing. It's like a desert. And so you can see the sun like a flashlight just shining down in a cone everywhere. If there's a little bit of where clouds are right, it looks like a cone. And I point it out all the time to these guys. And I get them thinking, but the programming goes hard on people. And if you're not ready to wake up, well, you're not ready to wake up. You'll just have 1 foot in, 1 foot out. You'll be back in the illusion before you know it.
The narrative began to fall apart. I would continue studying and finding that what I fear to be true is reality, that we have been lied to about just about everything. Upon researching military history and then military training and speaking with military gunners in both the Army and the Marine Corps that I know personally, I would ask them about Coriolis effect. And it was always assumed that, we compensate for the Earth being, a curve, that it would drop. We calculate for the Earth curvature. But even upon asking and having them look into their materials further and my own personal study, again, it found to be an assumed truth with no actual basis in reality, that they would calculate bullet fall based upon angular velocity, drop, friction, amongst other things. And curvature was supposed to be just corrected along with it, just like flying, wind correction angle corrected for Coriolis effect.
I've done many of them personally. I've flown more than 1,070 hours in both helicopters and airplanes. And I will tell you factually that aircraft meet their checkpoints, they take off, they meet their checkpoints, and they land exactly as planned on a flat stationary map. No pilot, I say again, no pilot has ever accommodated for the rotation of the Earth when planning flights and takeoff to checkpoints along the way, and then landing. Pilots can plan so well that they can take off and land hundreds of miles away down to within 30 seconds of their planning because the Earth simply does not rotate.
a waypoint would be like this. Like, let's say we're out in the middle of the water and we want to hit a target that's like directly to our west, 15 miles away. But that target is able to track our missile coming at them. We don't want that target to know where the missile's coming from. So we can put in waypoint. And a waypoint would be like putting a point out like 20 miles east, and then another point like 15 miles north, and then another point like 10 miles south of that, and then put in our target. You see what I'm saying? So the missile doesn't go directly from the ship to the target. The missile will actually fly to the latitude and longitude of the waypoints that are put in, and then it will curve from there and it will hit all the waypoints and then attack the target. How is that possible on a spinning Earth? If the Earth is moving at 600 something miles per hour or whatever they say it is, there's no way that missile could stay. There's no way that missile would be able to keep track. Do you understand what I'm saying? At least that's how I'm looking at it. It may be a little bit harder to visualize if you actually weren't seeing it the way that I would see it, or there, or understanding and putting in the coordinates or seeing how this actually worked out. But I'm telling you, like, from my perspective, that is one of the things that makes it virtually impossible to accept the globe as this. Well, it's a fake lie. It's a theory. It's garbage, is what it is.
Elon Musk
Danke, er
verdient
hat
circa
gerade gesagt, das ist kompletter Müll. Also, ja, es gibt keine Argumente mehr dafür. Also, wäre auch bestimmt.
$800 pro Sekunde. Das sind $48.000 pro Minute.
So y'all think the Earth is a ball. Y'all think it's spinning through outer space. And I bet you believe in the green alien.
Well, actually, the Earth is flat. Here I'll give you facts, all the math, science, and all of that. Whatever you need to believe. Come on, can't you see that is something? Use a pair of the core. For science looking down this scope. This is all hard to take it and hard to cope. But that I've given enough and rope to explore the rabbit hole that our Earth is not a ball and it's not spinning through outer space. If someone wants to prove me wrong, please give me a name and we can debate it. Gave anytime met with real test measurements and evidence. Stop lying to world nations. We have real science to back our observations. Don't believe in indoctrination of the people, cause they don't want you to believe that the Earth is level. Don't believe in indoctrination of the people, cause they don't want you to believe that the Earth is level. Dig deeper, be a rebel, then dig deeper than a shovel. Keep your mind level, it's flatten the curve and lighten the herd. Give the truth what it deserves, tell about what we actually observe. Like a boat going out of sight, if you get your zoom and focus right, it'll come back into light. Just use a laser beam and you will see that water never bends but always finds a flat resting position. 71% water can't make up a ball or a pair. So let me make this clear and get it into your ear. You're in great fear of stepping out of the box. They're keeping food gems in our socks. They are the slyest of the fox in a controlled illusion of evolution. That's nothing made everything in no procreation in this pseudoscience indoctrination, no meaningful salvation. But let's believe in gravity with no proof of how it picks and chooses what can rise and what can fall on this crazy thing we call a spinning ball. Don't believe the indoctrination of the people. They don't want you to believe the Earth is level. Don't believe the indoctrination of the people. They don't want you to believe the Earth is level. Let me give you something else to measure. Don't worry, it's my pleasure. If you want a vacuum or pressure, you must have a container, and that's a no-brainer. But since we believe the universe is on a roller coaster ride, even when Polaris is in the same place every night and has been for thousands of years, has the heavens work like gears, telling us time and the years like a big machine. The heliocentric model is just a drink backed by money and based on influence theories, never providing hard evidence except for CGI and camera trickery of my natural senses in our school systems. But flat earth brings meaning to your existence like a period at the end of a sentence. Don't believe in the indoctrination of people. They don't want you to believe that the earth is level.
When it comes to a deception this big, it's hard to dismiss. And for the people that say, I don't see how this would affect me either way, you don't know. It's like telling me about Argentina when you've never been there. Or it's like telling me about owning a Corvette when you've never driven one. You haven't experienced it. And if you have been through the Flat Earth Awakening, you know how it would affect you. This quite possibly may be the biggest awakening of mankind. Think about it. If you believe in this mass fallacy, you've been robbed of some senses and you don't even realize it. You don't trust your sense of touch or feel. You don't trust your sense of sight. You've been told the Earth wobbles, spins, and orbits, but you don't feel a thing. You don't feel a thing. You've been told that sunsets can't exist on a flat and stationary plane, but you don't understand the vanishing point of the law of perspective. After it's possible to understand and decode a mass deception, it becomes a lot easier to understand other lies. It opens your eyes and raises your discernment. So when it comes to lies like JFK, the moon landing, chemtrails, fluoridation, 9/11, etc., this is one of the most important factors of life I've ever been awakened up to. If it's possible to open your mind to this, your receptors will connect so much faster and stronger than you've ever experienced in your life. Understanding the ground you walk on every day and the luminaries that go over your head every day, which I still don't understand all of its entirety, can change your life forever. Knowing you are specifically, intelligently, and uniquely designed so you know mentally, physically, and spiritually your vibration, energy, and frequency of life. So don't act like this doesn't matter. We've been lied to on a mass caliber. We can prove we live on a flat and stationary plane with observable, repeatable, testable experiments with data, hypothesis, and conclusions without depending on blind faith, indoctrinated, religious, theoretical, nihilistic, opinionated philosophies. That's the difference.
Abschminken mit Abschminktüchern ist wirklich eine Challenge für mich.
Garnier Micellenwasser Waterproof.
Nur ein Swipe und das Make-up ist weg.
Amazon Prime Deal Days sind am 8. und 9. Oktober. 2 Tage voller Angebote. Werde jetzt Prime-Mitglied.
Is it possible that almost everything that we were taught from the time of our innocent adolescent time as children to the completion of our chosen path of studies in college was not only incorrect, but was part of an educational doctrine of spiritual disconnectedness from what truth is and what our reality in the world that we occupy today? What if I told you that this is but a small capsule in a puzzle that was well planned and engineered by a world control system to propagate a catalog of theoretical studies and sciences that in some cases have never been proven to this very day, nor will it ever be proven, ascertained as fact. Humanity appears to have been hoodwinked into a dumb state of who we are, where did we come from, and are we unique in God's creation concerning a geocentric world, or are we in a heliocentric world based on theoretical studies by a Jesuit astronomer named Nicholas Copernicus? He suggested this in 1543. His works were not released until after he died because he himself didn't believe in the spin ball theory either, that is taught still today at the highest levels of education. On my book, which is the variously planned agenda that has gone on for 474 years, seems to be threatened to become full disclosure of the biggest lie in the history of mankind that is kept by the world's oldest secret society called the Freemasons. The very uniqueness of humankind was spelled out correctly by the Creator, that the earth was the center of the universe, and that he created the sun and the moon as well as the stars and constellations that revolve around the earth, with Polaris being the north magnetic cold pit stall. How could space possibly exist when you and I have never been in our entire lives seen a real photo of what our own world looks like?
Max must constantly deal with the stigma and ridicule of being in the crazy flat earther from friends and family, and bombardment of typical questions like, why would they lie? How could so many people keep such a big secret? And what does the shape of the earth even matter anyway? The elusive curve presents all the main arguments for a flat earth and solid arguments against a spinning ball earth in a fun and realistic story format, recommended for all flat earthers and curious-minded people alike. Join Max on his journey as he attempts to convince his friends that the shape of the earth is not what they know, while he plans for a mission to discover more land on Earth with his ambitious and somewhat crazy plan to acquire a high-altitude super satellite to prove the shape of the Earth one way or another.
The Globers, definitely scientifically, we're looking at flat earthers have some very, very, very valid points according to those three examples. You got it, brother. Anything else?
That about answers my question. Quite a lot to take in. I've taken some notes. Thank you. Thank you again.
You're welcome, sir. Any questions? I'll be here for a while. Contact me anytime.
All right. God bless.
All the best. God bless.
Yo invito a la gente a que por lo menos sea un poco más abierta de mente hacia estos temas, porque la verdad es que esto está muy fuerte. Se vienen tiempos muy difíciles ahorita y debemos de estar conscientes de que el sistema nos está manipulando de una manera muy, muy grande. Entonces, pues, vamos a ver qué pasa.
So that began my journey down the flat earth. And since that point, I've only found more and more voices, more and more educated people, educators, professionals who are beginning to shed light on this subject in ways that I can only begin to imagine. But I'll never forget the day that I realized my plane wasn't falling around a globe, that I could look out the cockpit window, 185 degrees plus field of vision at 40,000 feet, and not see one iota of drop, but nothing but a flat, beautiful, motionless plane. The assumed calculations that we made that were compensating for Earth rotation were just a part of a calculation based upon wind speed and the angle we had to hold in order to fly against that wind and go in a straight line to our destination. It's one of the most freeing truths I've ever experienced, because in some small way, the idea that these other conspiracy theories and things we've been lied to about are true. But this biggest one is the biggest truth of all. We've been lied to about everything. It means we can start over. We can start again. At this time, at this point in our history, we are uniquely positioned to make that change.
Ein Online-Business zu haben, das es dir ermöglicht, um die Welt zu reisen, das geht viel einfacher, als du wahrscheinlich gerade denkst. Selbst ohne technisches Know-how, ohne Experte in irgendwas sein zu müssen und auch ohne dich auf Social Media zeigen zu müssen. Und was ich dazu mache, ist ganz, hey, vielleicht ausreichend Computerkenntnisse, um eine E-Mail zu schreiben, ja. Und weil ich so oft gefragt werde, wie genau das alles funktioniert, wie ich das eigentlich mache, habe ich einfach mal ein Videotraining aufgenommen, wo ich das Ganze Step by Step erkläre. Und das ist auch kostenlos, also schau es dir gerne einfach mal an. Und das Einzige, was du dazu tun musst, dich einmal hier auf die nächste Seite durchzuklicken und dich dort dann einzutragen. Und dann kannst du dir das Training sofort anschauen. Und ich verspreche dir, es wird sich lohnen. Also wir sehen uns hoffentlich gleich.
Probleme mit eingetrockneten Essensresten? Probier das neue Prielkraftgel Ultra Plus.
And if I can make one statement to the people out there, it's simply this. That's it. That it's level. You cannot fall off the edge of an in-ground pool. It is level. Where you put your feet in the water in France, it's the same height that you're going to put your feet in New Jersey and Brazil. Do some research. This is not the only thing out there that needs to be researched. Unlearned and relearned. The Department of Education, founded by Rockefeller in 1908, did a good job of proving that the mode of ignorance that he calls his education board, you are the proof it's working. The mode of ignorance widens every day. It gets bigger and bigger every day because people keep believing what they spit out. Unlearn. Thinking outside the box. The box is the cap that you got at graduation. So understand that for the first 18 years of your life, you didn't learn the truth about anything. You were simply told, and you got a reward for repeating it. Now it's time to think for yourself. It's time to do research and do your own testing. Be your own white coat.
Knowing the earth is flat has placed me in sync with our Creator, His creation, our hidden past, and with the future we hope to build. A future where we should not have an organization called United Nations governing the world. When there is no globe, there should be no globalization. This is my message to all of you. Peace.
My message to the people is that if you're watching this documentary and it strikes a chord with you, research it. Find out more about it. So my message is research it. Get all the ammo you can, because if you try and go out and tell your family member or friends or coworkers, and you try and tell them this, hey, that, they're going to laugh at you. And if you don't have the ammo to defend it or the right content to show or to start a kindle a fire with somebody's interest, if you don't have that, you're going to get laughed. I made the mistake of when I just knew it. Right when I seen that video, I said, okay, it makes so much sense. I knew it right away. I went and tried to tell everybody before I knew. I just blurted out little proofs. Airplanes don't dip their nose, the water lies for, and they'd hit me with some of that science stuff, And then when I had the knowledge, it's harder to defend it because they've already don't take me serious. But now I've gained such a knowledge on it and such what you would call ammo that I can defend it in a way that you're going to get one of these reactions. Well, what does it matter if it's round or flat? My life doesn't change, doesn't matter, either way. That's how you know that you're striking a chord. Their ego doesn't have anywhere else to go. So from there you can work on them. But like I said, learn the model, learn to defend the flat earth model before you tell your coworkers, loved ones, or anybody, for that matter that you don't know, because people you think that you know well are going to look at you like you're crazy. That's due to the programming, and everybody believes one thing, so how dare you believe another? You got to fall in line.
So if you're able to actually open up your mind, look at things objectively, allow yourself to break free from the indoctrination bullshit that you were taught, you'll feel more free. You'll see the world differently. You'll love more deeply and compassionately. You'll appreciate life more. That's how I lived my life. A couple years ago, honestly, I can tell you this. I just hope and pray with all my heart that, as the years go on, this is probably not something I'll see in my lifetime. But, as my children grow older and my children's children, as the generations go on, the truth will start to emerge. And it is starting. I mean, it's incredible, that so many people are starting to really awaken. But, 10, 20, 50, 100 years from now, hopefully we can break free of the chains of indoctrination and really see the world for what it is and actually appreciate it and love the world and love each other. And I think if we all understood that there is a creator, people would be less inclined to be so abusive toward each other and the earth. So that's my big message for the people. Just think for yourself. At the end of the day, just be a good person. Don't be so quick to just believe something and stand by that belief just because it was taught to you at a young age. Question it. Make sure it makes sense.
In closing, I'd just like to say that these are my own personal experiences. I never ask anyone to simply just believe everything I'm saying. In fact, please don't. That's how we've gotten into this whole mess to begin with. by blindly following others who say they've already done the research for you. You allow deceptions to occur. Please do your own research and test all things.
All space agencies are part of the cover-up because they are also Freemasons. It is my consensus that space is fake. And NASA was set up this deception and even admit that images of Earth are composites and computer-generated images. Since 1958, NASA has literally force-fed us to and continue their trickery, sorcery, wizardry, and being only God of oneself, yet cannot get high enough altitude to provide humanity with one single photo of what the very shape of our world is. I believe strongly in the very senses that God gave all of us. And instinctively, our senses are 99% correct. And my book will help those awakening sheep remove the dark shades from this massive deception. And for those who are unwilling or unable to think past their noses, then those sheep will remain asleep. My book is part of the Great Awakening from pseudoscience that has put man living in a Newtonian world of Einstein physics, ruled by Frankenstein logic. Game is over. Consciousness shift of stupidity because of poisonous indoctrination to separate your soul and reality from truth. The knowledge of hold tight, folks. A real awakening is happening all over the world.
The curve of the Earth, the spinning ball, as well as evolution, dinosaurs, nuclear bombs, and everything else that they teach in the schools that's not founded on scripture. Number one, it's mathematical, geometric, geospatial, geophysical, and in all other respects, the spinning ball Earth is a scientific absurdity, provable by observation and measurement and repeatable science experiments. The spinning ball Earth does not exist. There is no curve to the Earth. There is no Coriolis. There is no such thing as a spinning ball Earth.
10-mal stärker als die blaue Pille? Legen Sie diese Pille unter Ihre Zunge, um die Schlange zu heben, wann immer Sie wollen. Heute werde ich Ihnen etwas verraten, von dem fast kein Mann weiß, dass es existiert. Und diejenigen, die es wissen, teilen dieses Geheimnis niemals mit jemandem. Gehen Sie in Ihre Küche und befolgen Sie diesen 15 Sekunden Hack zur Blutzirkulation, der von führenden Wissenschaftlern aus Cambridge entdeckt wurde und der 19.389 Männern geholfen hat, sich sofort bereit zu machen, wann immer sie es wollten. Er ist unabhängig von Alter, Gesundheitszustand oder Schweden und jeder Mann kann ihn heute durchführen, ohne einen Spezialisten konsultieren zu müssen. Wie sehr wünschte ich, mein Mann Walter hätte dieses Video vor Jahren gesehen. Er hätte viele Auseinandersetzungen und peinliche Momente vermeiden können und er hat jahrelang als weinerlicher Opa mit einem winzigen Stock gelitten. Darunter leiden wir nicht mehr. Ich fühle mich wie die erfüllteste Ehefrau der Welt. Und dank eines 15-Sekunden-Hacks bereitet er sich einmal am Tag darauf vor, seine Schlange so groß und bereit denke. Und lassen Sie mich Ihnen sagen, ich habe nicht einmal bemerkt, dass er es tat. Es ist so diskret. Ich habe es Monate, nachdem er bereits angefangen hatte, herausgefunden. Nun, mein Mann Walter ist zufällig auf diesen 15-Sekunden-Hack gestoßen, als er sich ein Online-Video angesehen hat. Und wenn Sie neugierig sind und mehr erfahren möchten, hinterlasse ich Ihnen hier den Videolink, damit Sie darauf zugreifen können. Aber nutzen Sie die Chance, solange Sie können. Die Pharmaindustrie hat dieses Video bereits mehr als 3-mal entfernt. Klicken Sie einfach auf die blaue Schaltfläche Ansehen. Jetzt wird es irgendwo hier erscheinen. Und schauen Sie es sich an. Es ist 100% kostenlos und online. Es wird nur ein paar Minuten Ihrer Zeit in Anspruch nehmen. Also zögern Sie nicht und schauen Sie es sich an. Glauben Sie mir, Ihr Partner wird es mir danken.
And at the end, the Bible, which was a textbook, and I say again, a scientific textbook written long before any of the universities we have today, the Bible says the earth is flat and stationary. So therefore, we can dispense with all of our science school learning that doesn't agree with the Holy Scripture. The Holy Scripture tells us that the earth is flat and stationary. All of our measurements, and indeed our personal senses, tell us that the earth is not moving. There is no curve to the earth. Jesus Christ is the Son of God. The Holy Scripture tells us the nature of the earth. The earth is flat and stationary.
Pride, ego, and reputation are 3 characteristics I see in every spinning ball believer. Let your pride down, knowing you've been heavily deceived your entire life. Let your ego be washed away, knowing it's possible you've been manipulated on such a scale as this. And stop caring what people think about you. I'm not saying be as external and abrasive as some of us. Just realize that yes, we are human and we can be programmed to think certain ways, but also know we can be unplugged and become critical thinkers, observers, and researchers without being told what and how to think. From an education system that runs kindergarten curriculum all the way up to Harvard, that was bought over by the Rockefellers a long time ago. This is our time, not theirs. It's time to stand up and start acting instead of relaxing and being told how and what to think. From mainstream outlets that are owned by the Bilderberg Foundation, the Triangular Commissions, and the Counselor of Foreign Relations. Think for yourself and stop falling victim of popular public opinion that are owned by these anti-God secret societies. In my in particular gifted opinion, the most precious gift God gave us is free will, but it's up to us to choose what's right and what's wrong, what's light and what's dark, what's positive and what's negative, what's yin and yang, what's in motion and stationary, what's flat and what's round, what's good and what's bad. We can't tell you what to do. I can lead you to knowledge, but I can't make you think. It's your choice to take the blue pill and go back to sleep, or to take the red pill and stay awake the rest of your life, knowing you are chosen. Because many are called, but few are chosen. And I promise you, once you go flat, you do not go back. They couldn't stop this movement if they tried, because truth prevails. Rest in peace, the globe.
Every truth has a specific time and moment to manifest itself. Technology being the catalyst for this truth to reemerge and reveal itself again. And proof that it's not a myth, fantasy, or a misunderstanding of our ancestors and all ancient cosmologies. The geography of Earth that is flat and also disguised in words like plains, the Great Plains, the lowlands of Europe, flatlands, the savannas of Africa, the Amazon basin, the salt flats, the mud flats, the depressions, the Arctic tundras, the tablelands of Australia, the steppe of Russia, grasslands of Argentina, the ice sheets of Antarctica, the wetlands of Florida, and the levels of England. Over these vast plains flows rivers and canals like Nile, Amazon, Mississippi, and countless more, for thousands of miles, flowing level in every direction. The oceans and seas that occupy 70% of Earth is flat and level water, but science has no way to prove that it curves or sticks to a spinning ball by a magic force called gravity. The majority of the seabeds of the seas and oceans are abyssal plains, as we say, as above, so below. The longest line of sight of observing Hudson Bay at 1800 miles and my own Himalayan ranges observations on 2 occasions of plus 2000 miles is just impossible on a globe Earth. No physicist can debunk testimony presented here by the first category witnesses, nor the real geography, nor the longest line of sight, nor the countless researches, investigations, and evidences that prove we live on a flat and stationary plane. The one who needs to prove that it's legit or not is the globe.
Wonderful, magical, celestial light, fantastical, mystical, wonderful sight. Belgian Swiss physicist Auguste Picard, 1931, first to reach for the stars, was the first to explore the air view stratospherius. A scientist curious to see what was there. An aluminium black ball on the heat.
Du hast eine Periode und plötzlich, oh nein, keine Panik. Always Ultra nimmt Flüssigkeit 3-mal schneller auf, damit du dich trocken fühlst. Überraschungen während der Periode passieren schnell. Always ist schneller. Nie mehr, oh nein, während der Periode. Always Ultra bietet bis zu 100% Auslaufschutz für sichere Tage.
Amazon Prime Deal Days sind am 8. und 9. Oktober. 2 Tage voller Angebote. Werde jetzt Prime-Mitglied.
With photos in the air, 52,000 feet, 10 miles of temperature, potential and cold, but disproving gravity. Wonderful, mystical, beautiful sight, black line separation of black from blue light. A world run by deceivers, false make-believers, hiding in shadows. Feeling our magical, mystical, fluorescent light. Wonderful, magical, awesome. Yes, feeling our light. Wonderful and heavy light. Supernatural, eternal, and up we go. Higher than rainbows, higher than mountains. Above you below, embassies higher than air. High level horizon, 360 around us, right round behind us. Any height that you dare. It's on the moon, above around us. And forever, short time flies intelligently there. You'll never be us, you'll never defeat us. No more you'll deceive us. Keep going like air. Kipper and Picard were the first ever known to reach up there. Divine luminescent light, mystical, wonderful, celestial light. So what was their eternal testimony? What did they report back to humanity? Said it seemed like a flat disk far as eyes can see, with an upturned edge fading into infinity. A mystical, ethereal, celestial sight, a divine creation of love, of life designed here by deceivers and false make-believers, still cowering in shadows, still fearing our light. Here we go, higher than Everest, higher than airplanes, above zero, cumulus, higher than air, a level horizon, 360 around us, no motion beneath us, no spinning, no bells on the firmament, turning all around us. us to forever, so tight as geometric there. You'll never beat us, you'll never defeat us, forever beneath us. We see through you like air. Mystics of illuminant light, fantastical, magical, bright. We see through you like air. Magical angels of light. Beautiful, wonderful, celestial light. The first to see truth when they reach for the stars. Explorers and physicists, Kipper and Picard. Never you'll defeat us, forever beneath us. We see through you like air.
Ja, aber das war's mit also Flat the Curve. Habe ihn definitiv nicht schlecht gefunden. Ich bringe euch jetzt noch ganz was Schönes, also unsere Sterne in Ding. Das mache ich bei jedem Abschluss. Es ist es einfach wert, sich das anzuschauen. Jetzt mal schauen, wo ich ihn habe. Bei den ganzen. Das Witzige ist mal Arme, ne? Das wird dann ganz oben sein. Es ist auch gar nicht schon Sachen hat. Aber da ist er. Jim Annis. Der macht immer Aufnahmen von Planeten, Mond und nicht bearbeitet wie von der NASA, sondern original. Ich zeige euch da einfach ein paar. Das ist wirklich sehr schön, immer für den Abschluss. Also das ist der Planet 5,6. So. Sind halt immer kurze Augen. Das macht ja nichts. Ich hab da das Laptop. Ja, so schön, dass der Podcast ich spüre ich jetzt noch. Much higher cosmic behaves. Leute, super. Ich bin froh, dass ich mit euch das durchgegangen bin. Wirklich, ist einfach eine Pflicht, dass man sich einmal anschaut. Nicht? Jetzt haben wir nach einem Dann sage ich noch ein Abschlussstatement. Wichtig, dass es solche Dokus gibt. Es ist da sehr, also erklärlich dargestellt, also sehr gut dargestellt, sagen wir so. Man kann daraus sehr viel einmal Grundwissen lernen, finde ich. Deswegen habe ich es abgebracht und war mir wichtig, dass man es fertig macht. Schaut es euch an, bitte. Es gibt dann Teil 1 auch. Ja, hat mich gefreut, Jungs. Es ist jetzt auch schon ein bisschen später, wir gehen noch in einen Stream rein. Den Link habe ich gepostet. Unterstützt sie, gell? Sie heißt Vicky, sie macht eine super Sache. Heute geht es um Mental Health. Also, alles Gute, ja. Be blessed und stay flat.